Hi, this is Catherine Zobri with the Founders Playground. Thank you so much for joining me for this extended presentation of business planning, your blueprint for success. This is the extended version from the presentation that was given at Ignite's Empowerment Summit in Tuscaloosa, Alabama in late October 2023. So if you caught that presentation and wanted some more details or wanted to access the materials kind of again to go over them and use them in your business, this is how you can access them. So thanks again for joining me with the Founders Playground on the blueprint for success, crafting a strategic business plan specifically for creative entrepreneurs. Most of the examples that we're going to use today, because this presentation was crafted for childcare providers and care companies, are going to be relevant to childcare, but we are going to include some other industries as well. So let's get into it. First and foremost, why bother planning? I mean, you probably know internally you have this feeling that you should be planning, right? The number one key to writing a successful and complete business plan, whether it's for internal or external reasons, is to build numbers into the plan. So if all you watch or listen to today is this section, this first like 30 seconds, build the numbers into the plan as you go. Yes, it's going to make writing the plan a little bit slower, but by the time you get to the dreaded financial projections, which I will tell you, everyone hates writing those, you will have the numbers that you need to put the financial projections together. So every part of your plan is built to do three things. First, it's either going to indicate where you will make money or how you will make money. Second, it's going to indicate how you are going to save money. And third, it's going to indicate how you're going to spend money and how much money and so on and so forth. The rest, the business plan really is designed to talk about why you're going to either make, spend, or save money. And I'm going to be asking you throughout the day, like, what are those three things? The business plan, the goal is to identify where you're going to make money, where you're going to save money, where you're going to spend money. So if you remember just those three things, I will consider this session a success. So what are the parts of the plan? Different templates, different business planning software is going to include different kind of sections, subsections, chapters. They usually fall into four big categories. The first is your company description, where you talk about the history, the legal structure, intellectual property, your core values, things like that. The second is your industry and market analysis, and that's kind of looking outward. So the first section looks inward about your business. The second section looks outward about the rest of the world and how everybody else is doing business. Then the marketing plan is going to take those two kind of big sections and pull it together in some strategy. So we've got facts about the company, facts about the industry, facts about the market, and now we're starting to use some critical thinking. And then finally is the financial projections. What you're going to see in this presentation, all of the individual or subsections that we're going to talk about today are going to be common across business plans, whether you're using a template or this template or that template. They're going to be common. Some templates don't include all of these elements. I would still encourage you to think about them, even if it's not in the template that you're specifically going to use. So let's jump right in. The company description. The company description includes the history of your idea or your business. The description lays out all of the steps that you've taken so far to get as far as you have. So even if you're just in the ideation stage, talk a little bit about how you arrived at that idea for that business, why it's important to you, what problem you're solving, and why that problem is important to you and your business and your community. It's a celebration of both your successes and your failures, because I will tell you from personal experience, as well as a lot of business knowledge, you're going to learn a lot from those failures. And so this is a time to celebrate them. So let's kind of dive into the individual sections in your company history section of your business plan. You can see there's a lot going on here, and that's why a lot of times different templates will have these separated out into sort of different chapters or different sections. But I'm just kind of lumping them all into this company description big bucket here. So we've got your history, location, facility, products and services, intellectual property, your vision and mission, strategic alliances and management, who's kind of running the company. So first and foremost, your history. This could be the history of your business, or if you're not in business yet, the history of your idea. Again, what made you come up with this idea? How did you arrive at that idea? And what steps have you taken already? What are your next steps? What are your short and long term goals for the next kind of set period of time? And the numbers that you really want to include in this history section are the amount spent so far. So if you've bought business cards all the way to, tons of inventory, you want to talk about how much money you've put into the business in those different categories, right? The other number that you want to include in this history is if you've generated any revenue so far. How much revenue have you generated? Think about the dollar size of the total addressable market or the opportunity for your business. And we'll also think about that in one of the next sections in the market analysis. The next subsection here is the location. So think about if you were an online business, you still want to talk about the physical location. Why exactly? Well, you want to talk about the physical location because you're going to need to get business licenses somewhere, right? If you're hiring and you hire folks locally, you're going to have to abide by local rules. So for example, if you're a New York-based business, if you are located in New York City or out of New York City, then you're going to have a different minimum wage, right? So outside of New York City, for example, the minimum wage is $14 and I think 20 cents at the time of this recording. Whereas if you're located in Alabama, even if you're an e-commerce business, your minimum wage is like $7.25, right? So it's a very different, very specific, heavily impactful factor. In Tuscaloosa County, where I live, for example, you need a city business license. And if you're a service provider, that's all you need. But if you're in Birmingham, you're located most likely in Jefferson County, and then you need both a city and a county license. So even if you're just an online business, even if all you do is e-commerce, right? Maybe you don't even carry inventory, maybe you're doing drop shipping, your location still has an impact on your business in terms of licenses and taxes, as well as amenities and connections to your customers. So with the physical location, your business plan will focus more on your online market in terms of like whether you're on Amazon or Etsy or eBay. But your physical location still has a heavy impact, even for online businesses. And that's because you're required to pay taxes, obtain licenses, access the internet, accessing to shipping to your customers, right? And the numbers that you want to include in this location section specifically for online companies are average site visits per day, average page visits per day. And here are the really good ones to include if you have numbers on these. And if you don't have numbers from your own business, look them up for other businesses and you can include them later. But average spending on your site and average spending in your category, right? So that might be a little bit easier to calculate if you're working through a marketplace like Amazon, Etsy, eBay, but you still want to try and figure out those numbers. And again, it's going to require a little bit more upfront work, but it's going to pay off in the long run because then when you get to that financial projection, you'll be like, oh, I know the average spending per customer. And so let me think about how many customers I have coming to my website and the conversion rate there. So if you have a physical presence, like you brick and mortar, you have a physical business, you'll want to talk a little about how you define your particular location. Is it your neighborhood, your city, your municipality? Is it the greater metropolitan area? Is it the state? How do you define that location? Why did you select that location? And I will tell you, it is absolutely fine. It is absolutely fine to say it's because this is where I live, right? This is where I am right now. That's okay. Because what that does is it allows you to acknowledge, okay, if I'm going to expand, where might I expand to next? knowing the pros and cons of where I currently am. Maybe I want to hire my first employee in a different location because they're going to have access to customers or to suppliers in a different way that I am currently lacking, right? So it allows you to kind of set that standard on which you can grow. Um, so why did you select this location to operate your business? What are the pros and cons? And some examples are good access to customers, good access to workforce, good access to suppliers or distributors. And the numbers that you want to include about your specific location include population, consumers in your target market, and those are consumers consuming the types of goods and services that you sell, not just everyone. Um, Competitors or substitute businesses. So if you're in childcare, how many churches are also providing childcare? How many folks are just deciding to stay at home and watch their own kids? Those kinds of things. The next subsection is about your facility. In the facility section, you want to talk about the features of your physical space and the benefits each of those features bring to your business. For example, if you live in 1,100 square feet, of space with 3 parking spots and 2 of them are restricted to accessible parking, you'll want to discuss how you accommodate your customers without maybe that adequate parking, unless your specialization is the handicap community or folks with disabilities or mobility issues that you want all of your spaces, and I'm all for that. Absolutely. Like, we need more accessibility in this world, so make that part of your competitive advantage, but definitely talk about those kinds of features and how they are benefits or drawbacks to doing business. Important topics to cover in your facilities section are things like parking. How many parking spaces do you have? Um, and how many accessible spots do you have in your lot? Um, Delivery docs. If you receive or ship goods, you want to talk about the delivery options. Accessibility, absolutely. Proximity to urban centers, highways, things like that. Bathrooms, storage, office areas, under or above ground utilities, right? Especially if you're in a stormy area. And I say that living in Tornado Alley, but when I was growing up in New Jersey, my mom worked in Morristown and they had all these above ground wires, and every time there was a thunderstorm and a big windstorm, their power went out. Right? And we're talking about, like multi-million dollar companies that would lose power and then not be able to serve their customers. So, no matter where you are, there are things that are out of our control, but acknowledging whether the above or below ground utilities are going to impact us is a really big deal. Items like landscaping, kind of those are the most common things. Those are common features to identify in your facilities section. Now, the numbers you want to include in your facilities section are things like how much rent do you pay, or if you're in a home office, what is the percentage of your home that you are using for your business, and whether you rent or own your home, because there are different tax consequences. So what I would encourage you to talk to your tax person, your CPA, your accountant, your enrolled agent about how and when you should be using that home office deduction on your taxes if you do have a mortgage, because there may be some down the line implications for that. So definitely include rent. If you're in a physical space, you want to talk about the foot traffic or car count. You want to talk about insurance, utilities, any of those kinds of costs related to your physical space. Now, the next is IP. Now, if you don't know what IP stands for, IP in a business sense, at least, it stands for intellectual property, right? So it is kind of an intangible good that's part of your business. You're generally not going to see it on your financial statements, right? Like Mickey Mouse does not appear on Disney's balance sheet, even though it is a substantial asset. However, it is an important contributor to your revenue streams. And so you definitely want to talk a little bit about how you own and protect the intellectual property of your business. So intellectual property, just kind of a high level overview, covers your trademarks, copyrights, patents, and trade secrets. Those are the 4 categories: copyrights, trademarks, patents, and trade secrets. You can protect 3 out of 4 of those by registering them. 2 you don't have to register. One, you do have to register to protect. So the trade secrets you cannot register to protect, and that's because any kind of registration is a public disclosure. You're making that information public by adding it to the public registry of patents, trademarks, or copyrights. So you do not want to register trade secrets. You want to be very careful to protect them. The two federal bodies that can help you register your trademarks and copyrights are the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office and the U.S. Copyright Office. By registering your trademark and copyright, you're creating a defensible paper trail. So it's like having a driver's license, right? Like it's like, okay, now the government is saying you are able to do this, right? So it's creating that defensible paper trail. Now, trademarks and copyrights, you're not required to register them. But if anybody else comes behind you and tries to use your name, logo, designs, curriculum, things like that, you can demonstrate that you've owned and used that mark in commerce since it was registered since it was registered. However, registering a trademark or copyright, like I said, it's not required. So you should definitely talk to a lawyer about whether it's best for you to do so and at what point you want to protect your intellectual property. A trademark will generally cost you around $250 to register. That does not include any legal fees. A copyright, on the other hand, is much less expensive. It's only about $30 to register each copyright. A patent, on the other hand, almost always requires legal assistance because there is a substantial search process and a lot of kind of paperwork that goes into the patenting process. So a patent will really run you between $10,000 and $30,000. Can you do it on your own? Yes, absolutely. But it's the kind of thing that you really only want to do once. So find legal services to help you out there. And pro tip, if you search for USPTO, that's the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, Law School Clinic Program, you will find a list of nationwide schools, law schools, that will help you with your copyright, trademark, or patent for either no or a very low fee. So those are good ways to kind of find assistance, but I will tell you, those kinds of programs are geared towards education. They're not geared towards your business outcomes. And so you're kind of you may be held up by the pace of their registration, the amount of demand they have, and so on. But I have had clients in the past use them successfully to register trademarks, patents, and copyrights. And obviously, because there's no registration for trade secret, there's no fee for registering for that. Okay, so why include IP in this section of your business plan, right? So think about, it makes money, saves money, or costs you money, right? Intellectual property has the potential to make you money. It also has the potential to cost you money. And if you can do it yourself, or if you can use one of those low cost services, then it is also going to save you money. So for the IP section of your business plan, you should note down the important designs, words, and curriculums, right? So if you produce any kind of dance, choreography, musical composition, poetry, literature, any of those kinds of things, you want to get them into a physical space. You want to get them into a document of some kind, and you want to note them down, how many of which types of intellectual property you have. So you want to note down the important designs and words that are associated with you and your brand that you may want to protect at some point. Think about it this way: how will people know you from your competitors? How will you protect those brand assets, and how will you leverage them to make you money, right? Like make you money, save you money, cost you money. So how would you leverage those brand assets to make you money? Now, of course, there's a fee to registering many of these. So the numbers that you want to include: the number of trademarks, the number of copyrights, the number of patents. And then you want to think about and just jot down next to it, okay, trademarks are going to cost you $250, copyrights are going to cost you $30, and patents are going to cost you upwards of $10,000. So just kind of keeping in mind that those are the dollar amounts. And that way, so say you have a trademark, is that trademark going to make you more than $250, right? Because your time and the actual fee is going to offset any revenue that you get. So the branding and the revenue is going to kind of feed into that return on your investment. Okay, next up on this list are vision and mission statements. Now, we could talk for hours and hours and hours about both of these. These are two areas of business that I think are just so important. And once you can articulate your vision, you really have a very strong foundation to move forward. We're not going to go into that today. So follow my other content and leave a comment if you'd like me to talk more about how to craft your vision statement and your mission statements. But for the purposes of your business plan, your vision is really just how you're changing the community, why this is important for you to be doing. And it is bigger than your individual business. What kind of impact are you trying to make? Think of it this way. In a world where your business is successful, how is your world or the community different? And why is that an important change to achieve? So is it the change you want to so is it the like what change do you want to see in your business? Sorry, blah. Your mission statement, on the other hand, is how you're going to accomplish your vision. So it's much more strategic in terms of, it talks about like the who, why, when, where, kind of who's in, who's out, what are you going to do to actually accomplish and move yourself forward to accomplish that vision statement. Next up is your strategic alliances, and these are partners that help you do business. More than help, really. They are partners that you couldn't do business without. So they are critical suppliers, lawmakers, customers, other influential people in your community that influence how and how much and how you do business. When writing this section of your business plan, think about how these groups and individuals may have power over your business. So there's an analysis that you can do. It's called the 5 forces. And those forces are always pulling and pushing, and suppliers and alliances are a big one, right? So think of it this way. If you have one customer that provides you with 85% of your revenue, that customer tells you what to do in business. They set the deadlines, they tell you how it's done, even if you're an independent contractor, right? They have quality standards, so on and so forth. They can tell you to lower your prices. They're probably not going to tell you to raise your prices. They can revise a project, they can change a delivery date, so on and so forth. That customer knows that they have you basically held hostage, because without them, your revenue is going to drop significantly. And the question is, can you even survive that in business? So keep an eye on those strategic alliances. How much power do they have over your business? What kind of a partnership relationship is it? And sometimes just jotting it down helps you realize, because I know a lot of us in business suffer from, this I'm not good enough. I'm always trying to do better. I'm always trying to lower my prices, things like that, that uh, that make us, earn less than we really could, because what we have is what somebody needs, right? And so if we can, in just by writing it down, acknowledge, hey, we have something to give here, and this is a partnership. This is not a you tell me what to do. That allows us to kind of stand on our own business and lean into our value as business owners. So just keep an eye on it. Numbers in the strategic alliance section to include is number of suppliers, minimum and maximum in terms of order sizes or dollar amount or capabilities of those suppliers. You may also want to think about, okay, so for example, if your accountant is a strategic alliance that you have, how many accountants in their firm do they have that you can switch to if something happens to your specific accountant? How many accountants are there in your area that if something happened to the accounting firm that you use, you could switch to a different accounting firm? So those are the kinds of things to either think about and really evaluate when you're thinking about your strategic alliances. Finally, management. This is all about who's in charge, who owns the business, how are they qualified, what skills are they bringing, what skills are they missing. Because remember, everything in your business plan is leading to the financial statements. So everything is either making you money, costing you Money, say with me, or saving you money. So the management really is where this shines, especially in newer companies, because the management is going to be doing everything from cleaning the bathrooms to delivering the products and services and sending out those thank you cards at the end of the year to the customers, right? So management really does provide a lot of value to the making you money, saving you money, or costing you money. And I know I do them in different orders every time, but making, saving, and costing are the three things to continue thinking about. So what skills can the owners bring to the table that you're not having to pay for, right? So like, what are you bringing to the table that you might otherwise have to pay for? Skills like marketing, program management, fundraising, hiring, compliance, legal, accounting, all of those are extremely expensive things. So who is the most expensive consultant that you would have to hire if management or if you and the ownership team couldn't deliver on that particular thing, right? So think about the most expensive task in your business. Can one of the owners do it? Can they do it well? Can they do it efficiently, right? Because there is that time value, right? Could they be bringing more revenue in by doing something else? But there's cost savings associated with the items that they can do. So are the owners good at marketing? That's revenue generation, for example. So those are the items in the company description. Again, history, location, facilities, products and services. I don't know that we actually talked about products and services. I think I may have just skipped right over that, didn't I? Okay, finally in there, products and services. In this company, obviously your company description needs to include the products and services. Now, if you have thousands of SKUs, if you have tons and tons of items because you're a general retailer and you have 10 different sizes of each of 10 different dresses and you just have a ton of inventory, you want to group these into different groups of products and services. So for example, if you're a clothing retailer, you may want to group women's, children's, men's, adolescents clothings, right? You may want to group them, or you may want to group them by season. So we've got long sleeve, short sleeve, long pants, long dresses. You may want to group them by type of clothing. You decide how you group your products and services if you have a ton. If you don't have a ton of products and services, list them all, right? Because the more you can understand your products and services and the more you understand your customers, the easier it's going to be to help your customers solve the problem that they're coming to you to solve with one of the products or services that you provide. So in the products and services section of your business plan under the company description, you're going to want to list your products and services, the prices or price range. So if your prices are changing, you'll definitely want to include volatility of those prices if you're one of the many supply chains that are experiencing volatility at the moment. And then you're going to want to list each of the features that your products or product category embodies. So a feature of a product is something that is a physical fact of that product, right? And we don't need to debate the, facts versus whatever. We're not talking about news or politics here. We're talking about like, is it big or little? Like, is it, 16 inches or is it 36 inches? Like, I don't even know what product I'm talking about, but let me show you an example. So it's a postcard, right? So this is I think, 4x6 postcard. It is laminated and glossy on one side. It is matte on the other, right? These are the features of the postcard. It is, it's got writing and pictures on both sides. Now, what are the benefits? The benefits are what value does the customer derive from that? These are easy to handle. They're easy to find, right? They're easy to mail. They're standard shipping sizes. So those are the benefits of a postcard. But you're going to have your own list of products and services, and so you'll have your own features and benefits that align with them. So sorry about that. Skipped right over one of the most important subcategories in the company description. Products and services, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. Industry and market are up next. Your industry is a group of firms providing similar products or services or operating in a similar way. So if you remember what we said in the beginning, the company description is internal facing in your company. The industry and market is facing outside of your company. So you're looking at a group of companies that provide similar products or services or are operating in a similar way. Industries are generally defined by the US Census Bureau and assigned a specific code. In fact, that code is the North American Industry Classifications Code. And I'm going to tell you to get your phones out in just a second because I've got a QR code on the next page and I'll help you so you can actually find your North American Industry Classification Code in just a second. So this is the code that you'll want to use in your business. I just filled out an application for disability insurance for my employees, and guess what that form asked for? It wanted my industry code. So this is a kind of standardization to indicate what type of business you're doing. You will most likely fit into several boxes. I'll just put that out there. That's okay. Almost everybody does, right? You can have a primary and a secondary. You can have a primary, a secondary, and tertiary. You can have 6 NAICS codes. You can have 10 NAICS codes. More than that might be a little bit excessive, especially for a small business. But it is normal to have at least 2 North American Industry Classification codes or NAICS codes. So that's the code, right? But we know that legislative and government changes always follow business evolution, right? Because in business, we are moving and shaking and making new things, right? So industries are changing faster than the actual code system. And you get to kind of define which code you fit into best. But more than that, you get to define how you want to be defined in business. And I'll tell you why it's important, and then I'll give you an example of how you can kind of think about it. So, why is this important exactly? Like I just mentioned, an application for disability insurance that I just submitted asked for that code. Business licenses and government contracting opportunities are going to depend on how you or somebody else defines your industry. And so take charge of that. You have the power to say, this is my NAICS code, right? If you say, I don't know, then somebody else is just going to assign it for you based on their best guess. But you get to pick, right? So here's an example of how you can kind of take one business and think about the different industry classifications that they may choose to identify as depending on how and why they want to compete in the market. So let's say, for example, I'm a visual artist. I'm not, but let's say that I am. Okay, so I'm a visual artist. I could define my industry by the process, right? I make goods. I make handcrafted goods, but I'm still making goods. And what is making goods called? It's manufacturing. I could define my business in terms of the industry by the product. What is the product? Let's say fine art. Or I could define my business in terms of the distribution channel. How am I distributing my goods? Via e-commerce. So you could be, as a fine artist, you could be a manufacturer, a fine artist, or an e-commerce operator, right? And you're doing the same thing in business, right? You're making the goods, you're making a specific type of good, and you're selling them online. That doesn't change, right? The way you do business doesn't change, but how you're defined or how you choose to define yourself may actually be different. Your market, on the other hand, so we're talking about industry. Now we're going to talk about market. Your market is different from your industry. A market is generally a geographic area. For example, Tuscaloosa could be West Alabama, could be the Southeast, could be the United States. All of these are specific markets. If your business is an online business, if you're an e-commerce business, then your quote unquote market is where your customers gather. So TikTok Shop, Instagram, Facebook, Etsy, eBay, Amazon, Fiverr, Upwork, TopTal, all of those are markets or marketplaces. So when you're thinking about your geographic area, in your market, you still want to acknowledge where your physical geographic space is. But then if you're an online business, you also want to acknowledge that market. Okay, get ready, get your phones out, find your NAICS code. So before we go any further, grab your phone and open your camera, scan the code, and take a minute to put a keyword in to find your North American industry classification or your NAICS code. Use general keywords like restaurant, childcare, fine arts to kind of see what the available options are. I'll let you explore this for just a minute while I tell you a little story about how I paid almost $300 more in license fees and taxes because I didn't know my NAICS code. So in my first year of my second business, this was my second business, but it was my first year in this business. I went to the Tuscaloosa County Business License Office, and they asked me for my NAICS code. Now I had no idea what that was at the time, and so the very helpful woman behind the desk asked me what I did in my business, what I was hoping to do, what I was planning on doing, and so she really helped me understand, okay, what the license requirements were and things like that. I said I was a business consultant and that I had branded items for my business, right? I mean, like you do, right? Like you can see I'm wearing my t-shirt now. But I had branded items for my business, coffee cups, t-shirts, things like that. They assigned me as a retailer's license, and I ended up with a sales tax account. Now, these are very different processes, and I will take full credit. I registered for sales taxes, right? But I didn't know the implications of what I was doing. So I got a business license from Tuscaloosa County. I got set up my sales tax accounts, all of which took a lot of time, like not to mention the time, right? So I mean, you know where this is going if you've ever dabbled with sales taxes before. Um, so I ended up with an $80 license that I didn't need because in Tuscaloosa County, you don't need a license if you are a service business, and I'm a service business. And then I ended up with a $200 fine for delinquent sales taxes. Now, I didn't have any inventory yet. I didn't know I had no idea what I was doing. Um, and I can't promise you that knowing your NAICS code is going to save you a certain amount of money, but knowledge is power, and this is one of the very concrete ways that you can exercise this power by saying, this is in, this is out. Here's what I do. Here's what I don't do. Here's what my licenses are based on. So I wasn't selling anything, and I got the bill and I started looking into it, and I found the municipal code and the license fee for Tuscaloosa. And do you know how the license fee is arranged? It's arranged by NAICS code, right? It's not alphabetical, it's listed numerically, right? So if I had known my NAICS code, I would have saved almost $300. So that's my story about how having your NAICS code could save you money. And we know business plans are about identifying ways to make money, save money, or areas that are going to cost you money. And knowing your NAICS code definitely could save you money. It could also make you money in terms of opening up opportunities for government contracting. Okay, so let's get into what the industry analysis kind of includes and how to go about doing it. Your industry's historic and future growth is a very influential factor in your business. It will tell you how much you can expect, how much effort you can expect in your marketing and sales in terms of the competition, right? And numbers that you want to include in this section, and I will tell you, you do this section well, and your pro forma, your financial projections are going to be so easy, right? They might not be super accurate, but at least you will have a good starting place. So the numbers that you want to include here are the total revenue generated by your industry. It's probably going to be in the billions. The year-over-year growth rate, sometimes you'll see that as YOY. The quarter-over-quarter growth rate, that's QOQ. So why do we want the year-over-year as well as the quarter-over-quarter? Take a second and think about that. Why would we want that number? We want that because your quarter-over-quarter is going to show you the changes not affected by seasonality, right? So year-over-year, we're looking at big numbers. We're looking at, inflation might have gone up. There might be a new war going on, speaking of the present, right? Like there are a lot of things that can change between one year and the next, right? what shouldn't change as much, or will give you a better insight into the changes in the industry, is if you look at, say, the first quarter compared to the first quarter of 2023, right? The second quarter of 2022 compared to the second quarter of 20, gives you a little bit more of a granular look. Now you can compare internally in a year as well. That's a good number to include. What are the seasonal changes? But really, we want to look at kind of those big high level numbers. Is the industry growing or is it shrinking, right? So those are kind of numbers that are going to indicate how hard you're going to have to try to be successful in business, right? The last number that I would highly recommend you include in the historic and future growth is the expected 5-year annualized return. And I say these not necessarily because, they're not the super easiest terms to understand, but 5-year annualized growth rate is like, okay, over the next 5 years, what is the expected annual growth rate from year to year, right? And what you do with that number is you look at, okay, what's the annualized growth rate expected to be for the GDP, the gross domestic product? Is this an industry that's growing faster than the GDP, or is it growing slower than the GDP? Is it not growing at all, right? You want to stay away from industries that are shrinking in size. That either means that they're consolidating or dying altogether. So those are kind of the really important numbers. Total revenue, year over year, quarter over quarter, and annualized 5-year growth rate. The next section is one of my favorite sections to do, because I will tell you, and you may not like this at first, but it is, that we were just talking about how you define your industry. Well, this is why it's important. So TAM, SAM, and SOM. TAM stands for Total Addressable Market, and it's the total revenue generated by your industry. The total addressable market is the total revenue in dollars generated by your industry. So you have two things that you can really change there. One, how you define market. Normally, your total addressable market is the United States in this context, right? Your industry, remember that example of a fine art, a visual artist making fine art, manufacturing it, but selling it online, manufacturing versus fine art versus e-commerce. Thinking about all three of those aspects, that person could decide, hey, you know what, maybe I don't want to be competing in the distribution channel of online sales because it's so incredibly crowded and it's not growing. I don't know if that's a fact or not, but that's something to, you can decide and define. Especially when you're pitching to investors or lenders, you want to make sure that the way you're defining your market speaks favorably to your ability to compete in that market, right? If it's not a growing market, redefine your business or your business model in another way. Select a different NAICS code that still accurately captures what you do, but has an opportunity for you to grow, right? The amazing thing about being a business owner is that you get to define not just the products and services, but the whole business, right? You get to define your distribution, your customer service, how you're doing business. So you can innovate not just on the products and services that you sell, but also on the business model, how you deliver that promise to your customers. The next one there is SAM, TAM, SAM, and SOM. SAM is the segmented addressable market. This is the portion of the total addressable market that you could serve. And again, this is listed in dollars. And where you see this kind of graphically on this page is with those three little bubbles there. So the blue, the yellow, and the pink. The pink is that total addressable market. The yellow is the segmented addressable market. And those are the folks that you could serve. Now, we know that not everybody's going to buy from you. Not everybody's going to buy from me, right? So even if you're the only option in the market, you're not going to capture 100% of it. And that brings us to the SOM, that segmented obtainable market. And again, this is listed in dollars, and it's the amount of the segmented addressable market that you could actually capture. If you're a one-person show, you're not going to be doing $8 million in business as one person, right? You're going to be creating proposals and, it's just going to be a headache, right? You need people to help you do that. So if you're a one person versus a 10-person operation, there's very different aspects to that business, and you're going to be able to capture very different amounts of that market. People are going to decide to buy from you or not buy from you for a variety of reasons. Maybe they don't like you, right? I get that a lot. Maybe they live far away. Maybe you don't have their style in stock. Maybe you're an Auburn fan. Roll Tide. Uh, Maybe your organization follows a different religion than the religion that they follow, or that they don't, like to support religious organizations. So even if you're the only one in the area providing your products and services, you're never going to capture 100% of the segmented market, right? Like, even bottled water companies don't sell to everyone, right? Because there's people who prefer tap water, right? So it's, unless you're in an area that has undrinkable water, you're not going to capture 100% of the market, right? The number and distribution of operators, that kind of next subsection in the industry analysis. So the number and distribution of operators is the geographic concentration of your competition. Usually this section talks about the distribution of operators, and how that distribution in percentages lines up with the percentage of the population. So that's what we see in this little map of the United States. I just grabbed a color-coded map of the United States. That doesn't indicate anything there. Those colors don't indicate anything. But what you want to think about is, okay, the Southeast has about a quarter of the population. And so if it has more than a quarter of the businesses in your industry, then you're going to have a lot of competition, right? Whereas if the Southeast has a quarter of the population and there's less than a quarter of the industry operators located here, well, that's an opportunity. That means there's a big gap in the market, or potentially big gap in the market. And so you want to find those areas, or at least identify where the operators are, how highly concentrated the distribution of operators are. Now, don't confuse the distribution of operators in terms of geographic placement with the concentration of revenue in the industry. The concentration of revenue, on the other hand, talks about who the biggest firms in the industry are. For example, if you're an online retailer, Amazon is going to capture a high percentage of the revenue, no matter who else you are, right? Like, you're comparing Amazon to Walmart, not Amazon to, Catherine's, Hunter's bunting store for Christmas buntings or whatever. So the high percentage of revenue captured would be a highly concentrated industry in terms of revenue. So when we talk about concentration, we're always talking about specifically revenue, whereas number and distribution of operators, that would be the geographic. That was one of those, like, took me a long time to get that conceptually, that number and distribution is different than the actual, because I was like, why is concentration listed in dollars, not geographic elements? Okay. So for, just a kind of add a contrasting example, the childcare business does have some larger companies, but most of the businesses are small and independently run. So the revenue is not concentrated because everybody gets a share, but it's not a dominating share. The final section of the industry analysis on this slide, and there's another slide, I'm not going to lie, is the related industries. And related industries are industries that provide complementary services. For example, if you're a restaurant, your complementary or your substitute industries would be catering, grocery, meal delivery services, those kinds of either complementary or substitute. It also talks about industries that are suppliers. So it kind of talks a little bit about the competition, but also a little bit about industries that are suppliers. So this is a kind of a structural discussion. And oftentimes you'll see this geographically related, where you'll have the suppliers on one side, you'll have your business or industry in the middle, and then you have your customers on the other. And then on the top and bottom, you'll have emerging industries or competitive industries. So another childcare example, if for a childcare business, the supplier industries include food service businesses, furniture, and play equipment businesses. The second half of the industry analysis include demand determinants, products and services. And again, these are products and services, not necessarily of you, but of the industry. and more. So determinants. Demand determinants are economic factors that influence the demand of and for your products and services. They are external and they include things like consumer confidence, inflation rates, interest rates, cost of healthcare, education, groceries, things like that. Demand determinants are external to your business. So there'll be factors that will also show up in your SWOT analysis, and I'll talk about that in a later section. Products and services, the next subsection, are common products and services in your industry. So you may or may not offer all of these products and services. What's important about including the products and services that are industry wide it allows you the opportunity to talk about why you're including or not including those additional products and services. Maybe there's a business that exists that already does that fantastically, and you're serving a different need, right? Or maybe you don't have the capabilities of doing that yet, and it's on the roadmap. You're going to get there, but you're just not there yet, right? So listing the products and services. And I'll tell you, in market research reports, these products and services almost always come with percentages of revenue, right? So let's say, the whole industry is 100% of the revenue. And then you've got product A, which captures or generates, I don't know, 15%. You've got product B that has 25%, you've got product C, blah, 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 adds up to 100%. And so you can kind of see what the industry preferences are for those products and services and how much each product or service contributes to the revenue. Then, when you're developing your profit and loss or your cash flow projection, you can use those percentages to say, like, okay, I offer all of these same products and services. And so I estimate that product A is going to deliver 15% of my revenue. And so you can kind of analyze I expect to make this much money per year, and then I expect this product or service to contribute this much. And then when you're running your business, you can look back and say, wow, product A is really blowing it out of the market. Product A is actually generating 85% of my revenue. So then you can ask yourself, hey, is product B, C, and D, are they just not performing well because people don't understand them? Maybe I need to increase my training for my customer service or sales reps. Maybe I need to do more marketing on them. Maybe I just stop selling them altogether. So those are the kinds of decisions that you can make once you know what the standard products and services are and the relative revenue generated by them. But if you don't know that, you can't include that, right? Knowledge is power, and power translates to money, baby. All right. So in this chapter, you'll for example, if you're a childcare business and right now you only offer daycare services, you would also list daycare and you'd also list pre-K and other educational services, right? Like art, music, other specialized activities, even though your business is only actually offering the one. The next is the customer segment by revenue, and it's usually listed as a percentage. For example, childcare businesses, and these are real numbers. I pulled this report on October, I think, 16th for this presentation, 2023. So, for example, childcare businesses, 64% of revenue is from childcare, 16% is from pre-K services, 8% is from government contributions and grants. 2% is from private contributions, and 10% is from other services. So if your business is not generating in those rough percentages, you can ask yourself, okay, what government grants am I missing? How do I develop a private contributions, system to capture private contributions? So why list out services and revenue segments that your business may not have? Well, again, these are opportunities for your business to grow. And since you have control over the products and services and some control over the revenue sources, you would also want to list these in the strengths or weaknesses portion of your SWOT analysis. So again, these sections very much connect into each other. And you may also want to list the expansion of services or revenue streams in your short or long-term goals. By learning how other businesses in your industry operate, you learn how to optimize your business and compete, right? Making money, saving money, or spending money. Additionally, if you're not yet in business, or if you are and you're applying for financing, these numbers can be used to help your project your revenue and your expenses. Next up is the major expense categories, and these are your big costs and expenses that are going to impact your business. Now, these items may not appear or align exactly with your financial statements. So you may not see these items verbatim on your cash flow projections in your financial section. However, they are extremely important to managing the finances of your business. So, for example, going back to that childcare business, the three important expense categories are program services, management, and fundraising. And in each of the categories, you'd expect to find expenses related to wages, technology, supplies, and possibly even rent, right? Now, wages, technology, supplies, and rent are all going to be items that you're going to see on the expense portion of your cash flow projections. You're probably not going to see program services, management, and fundraising. Definitely not fundraising, right? So they're not going to align perfectly, but they are kind of key productivity indicators or key profitability indicators to keep your eye on as you're managing your business. So they're important so that you understand how you can benchmark against other businesses and control your expenses, aka profitability, right? The seasonality portion of your industry analysis helps you understand when to expect a dip or spike in revenue. Understanding when revenue may dip will help you prepare savings and create staffing and marketing plans for the downturns. And knowing when to expect a busy season will help you make investments in your staff and technology to help you take advantage of the increase in demand. And finally, the keys to success. Now, I see a lot of problems with keys to success in a lot of the business plans that I review because it's the people think they should put how they're competitive in that section. And that's just not how it works. The keys to success, because remember, industry analysis, external facing. The keys to success are best practices, not your competitive strategy. That comes later. And the keys to success may include items like proximity to high skilled workers, taking advantage of government programs, customer proximity, a good reputation, compliance with laws, regulations. These are industry wide best practices that lead to high profitability, not your individual competitive strategy. To put this another way and just really drill this point home, these are must haves. These are skills and tools that if you don't have them in your business, you need to figure out a way to get them in your business, right? Or compensate them very heavily. So they are must haves, not want to haves. They are not your competitive strategy. These are industry-wide, widely recognized, the most influential factors for your business. Best place to find keys to success is the IBIS World Industry Reports, and you can access those keys to success by contacting your local small business development center, and they will be able to kind of hook you up with what IBIS World says are the keys to success. I don't necessarily recommend purchasing one of those reports because they're very, very expensive. But I do encourage you to access no cost resources like the Small Business Development Center to help you figure out what those keys to success for the industry are, and then your competitive strategy based on those. All right, market analysis. This is the biggest section of the business plan. So it feels like it keeps going, but I promise this is the last slide on the industry and market analysis section. So your market analysis really starts out by helping you define what your market is, and then you want to kind of dive into some of those numbers. So remember, an industry is a group of firms or businesses, and your market, on the other hand, is your physical space, geographically bound by space where you operate, or that kind of online space, that online market that you operate in. You can use the market definition that you used in your company description, right? You should use the same one. This is where you operate. So how you define it in one spot, just go back and grab it. This section, however, will go into greater detail regarding the consumer spending and competitors in your area. So this is kind of where you start looking at the competition, the amount of revenue, right? If you're starting to think like, okay, this is where I might learn how I can make money, You're exactly right. So numbers to include in this section are the total dollar amount or average spent on similar products and services in your market in the last 12 months. Additionally, you'll want to include numbers on the total number of similar or competitive businesses in the area. And you want to just remember that if you don't think you have competitors, you need to take a second look. Somebody is solving the problem that you're trying to solve, right? So, say there's no childcare businesses in your area. Well, people with kids, what are they doing now, right? Are there kids that need childcare? Because if everybody's already solving that problem, even though there's no childcare businesses, they may already have a solution you know, that makes it irrelevant for your business. Now you want to know that before you invest $60,000, $70,000 on buying a building and building, you want to invest in the knowledge first. And yes, it's going to be disappointing if you learn that, hey, you know what, I thought this business was going to be possible, but it's not. I'll tell you, it'll be a lot easier than if you already have that $60,000 loan and the SBA is going to come asking for it next month. So invest in the knowledge, understand who your competitors might be, broadly speaking. And then think about how many consumers there are in the area. And consumers are people who are purchasing your products or services or the substitutes that currently exist. Think about how you're going to arrive at the number of consumers. How may you want to think about it in terms of demographics or other features, right? For example, the US Census Bureau collects data on the number of households with children younger than 5 years old. They have information on average spending per household on dining out, food away from home, right? So there are no cost resources for many of these statistics that you can pull into your business plan. Remember to jot down where you got that information. It doesn't need to be like anything fancy, but definitely include the links or the sources and the dates that you access that information so that you can really go back. And so if your lender or investor or somebody asks, or even you ask yourself, hey, how did I come up with this number, right? Because by the time you get to your market analysis, I mean, you can see how much goes into this. It's a lot, right? You're going to forget where it came from. So drop that link in where you access that from. You can use a footnote, you can use an endnote, whatever it is. Identify where you got that and when you got it so that as that information changes, you can keep it updated. All right, we've moved to the next section, your competitive or your marketing plan. So I think in the beginning it talked about the marketing plan, we're calling it competitive plan here. So now that you know where your business stands, um, and you've identified in the company description section, you know how the industry operates by your analysis of the industry. You know the location specific conditions, right? That's the market analysis. Now we can really decide how we want to compete. This is the subject of your competitive plan. The competitive plan describes how you plan to compete. So, your competitive plan is going to start by defining who you and your customers are or will be. You should include details about where they live, who they live with, their age, education level, occupation, income, spending habits, as much information as you can possibly find on them. Once you've identified your customers, break the customers into groups based on purchasing behavior. Sometimes purchasing behavior is very tricky to analyze. And so you may want to break it into groups like age 18 to 34, 35 to 45, those kinds of things. Oftentimes, you'll see categories like early adopters. This means the first folks to adopt or purchase from you. For childcare, for childcare, you'll most likely have categories based on the ability to afford private services and need for government support, as well as the age of the child, right? And you're going to base pricing around those items as well. And where are you getting these categories from? The industry analysis, right? So at this point, you don't really have to come up with that information, but you have to use that information to kind of create your strategies. once you have your segments, you'll want to identify the value you're bringing each of these segments. Now, if you remember back to the products and services in that company description that we talked about, how you're listing those products and services and then listing those features. You have those products and services. You may want to just copy and paste that section right into this part and then expand on each of how those features align with a value or a benefit that you're bringing to each of these individual customer segments, right? So why are you trying to sell to these folks? What value are you bringing them? Are you saving them time? Are you saving them money? Are you saving them their peace of mind? Are you treating them with dignity? Are you providing them with advanced opportunities for their child's intellect, like intellectual stimulation? And how are you doing that, right? So your value proposition is a single phrase. It's a promise to your customers regarding the value that they can expect from you. I recommend trying out a couple different phrases. See how they feel. Your value proposition is going to have a physical impact on you when you articulate a meaningful value proposition. It may bring tears to your eyes, it may give you goosebumps, but it's going to have a physical effect. You know you've hit on something real when you have a physical impact or physical reaction to your value proposition. Why is that? Because it needs to be meaningful to you in order for you to be able to sell it and connect it to other people. If it's not hugely valuable, then why are people going to switch? Switching is hard. It takes intellectual, emotional, and folks are already exhausted by the end of the day. So you need to have that super powerful, like really hit it home value proposition. What promise are you making that makes a difference to them? Not to you, but to them. And yes, I mean, you being the business owner need to have that level of empathy to have that physical experience, but it needs to be customer focused. So an important part of your competitive strategy, kind of zooming back out a little bit, is your SWOT analysis. SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and every business has all four in abundance, I promise you. Every single business. Now, we talked a little bit about where these elements are coming from already. So these are things that you've already got a running start to your SWOT analysis. Strengths are skills that you and your team bring to the table. These are areas where you can run faster, jump higher. They're areas where your internal team has the advantage. You're going to pull your strengths from your management as well as any other area that talks about your internal capabilities, aka your business description. Why are you good at what you're going to be doing, or why are you good at what you're currently doing? Weaknesses are skills or features that your team doesn't have that puts you at a disadvantage. And I'm not talking about like, okay, so if you're a childcare worker, can you walk and chew gum like literally at the same time? Because gum chewing doesn't add any value to your business. So focus on items that actually add value to your business. Can you do bookkeeping? Can you do accounting? Can you not do bookkeeping or accounting? Can you do marketing? Can you not do marketing? Are you just as involved? That's going to add an additional burden and paperwork in order to get certified as government contracting, right? Like all of those things. Now, weaknesses, I just want to take a minute to talk about the difference between weaknesses and self-worth, right? Like the weaknesses that you put down in your business plan do not make you an unworthy person. They don't make you an unworthy part of your community. You are worthy. You are worthy of dignity. You are worthy of love, connection, success, stability, all of those things. Weaknesses are just skill areas that you can either hire somebody for, right? This is where it's going to cost you money, right? And that's why we want to talk about these weaknesses. It's going to cost you time or money to improve or pay somebody else to accomplish these types of things. Um, Opportunities and threats are both external. and they come directly from the industry and market analysis. They can be listed here in bullet form. And in fact, what we often see is we'll see SWOT analysis, and then we'll see strengths and then bullet points listing each of those items. We'll see weaknesses and then listing of bullet points. For the opportunities and threats, we want to include a little paragraph about why these opportunities and threats are going to impact your business and how you're going to either take advantage of or compensate for them. Next, you'll want to identify your top 3 competitors, and remember that the competitors may be DIY, they may be status quo. Those are very powerful competitors as well. Once you identify and list your competitors, list the products and services and features that they provide to your customers, your potential customers, right? Now you're set to create your marketing or competitive strategy. Your competitive strategy is how you plan to compete given all of the information that we've discussed. So it's been leading to, you've arrived, it's been leading to this moment. So in the business plan, focus on the how for this section. And the numbers that you want to include here are amount that you plan to spend on any paid advertising or social platforms, fees associated with participating events like the Empowerment Summit, networking events, and don't forget to include food, travel, lodging, and honestly, just add 30% to everything because everything is much more expensive and takes twice as long as you think it's going to in business. For the section on your brand, you'll want to reiterate your value proposition and talk about the visual and other aspects of your business that define your brand and reinforce that promise that you're delivering to your customers. So, for example, if your value proposition is based on trust, you may want to consider using the color blue and your branding, since blue psychologically invokes trust. If your brand promise is about creating a calming and confident environment, stick with greens. So, thinking about what symbols indicate your brand promise and then pull all of them together. Your brand is the voice, it's the sounds, it's the smells, it's the imagery of your business. And to really help you understand what a strong brand is, I'd like to give you some examples. So, close your eyes. I want you to imagine a hotel resort, what this hotel or resort would look like if it were designed and run by Nike. Do you have an image in your mind? You're starting to think about and see what that would be like. What kind of activities would they offer? What would the hotel staff be wearing? All of those aspects, right? Nike is a very strong brand presence, and I bet you have a very good image in your mind. Now picture one. How about Mac or Apple products, right? For me, I picture high tech. Everything is kind of smart. Sensors are embedded. There's a lot of technology around. Everything is kind of virtual or augmented to elevate the experience. Everything is highly customized based on what I need or want. And because I have an Apple, I have a Mac computer, and I wear an Apple Watch, it probably knows everything about me already, right? So those are super strong brand images. Now, Nike and Apple obviously are not in the hotel business, right? And yet it was still pretty easy for you to identify what that resort might look like and feel like. Now, close your eyes again, and I'm going to ask you to think about a computer designed by Marriott. How about a shoe designed by Hilton? Can you see the differences between these two resorts? Even though neither of the, Nike or Mac actually operate, Nike or Apple actually operate hotels. And the difference between how difficult it may have been to think about a computer designed by Marriott. Honestly, I was picturing a Dell computer, like, I don't know, a generic PC. So you can kind of see and get a sense of the difference between a strong brand identity and one that's not quite as strong. Moving into platforms, and you can open your eyes again. Moving into platforms, this is a much more tactical portion of the business plan. Platforms are social, and they can include word of mouth, newspapers, radio, billboards. most often you'll hear platforms referred to purely as online social, but I do want to include those because they are important to acknowledge in your marketing and competitive plan. So social platforms include things like TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all of those. Finally, you want to include a content calendar. Well, business planning is really this part of the business plan really is more for you than it would be for anyone else. Your lender investor, they're not going to read the content calendar. I will tell you that this is one of the most powerful and transformative things that you can do in the planning process to push your business forward. Start your content calendar by adding regular holidays to the calendar: Halloween, Christmas, New Year's, etc. Then add industry specific or goofy holidays. Honestly, get silly with these. And if you Google like list of 2023 silly holidays, you'll find a bunch of them. So if you sell pet food, make sure you add National Train Your Dog Month. If you are in the fashion industry, National Wear a Dress Day. Everyone should have Amazon Prime Day, Small Business Saturday on their calendars. And again, a quick Google search give you a list of the year's funny holidays related to your industry. Next, add dates to your that are specific to your location or your market. So if you're here in Tuscaloosa, I always add Kintuck. If you're down in the Gulf Shores, I just got an opportunity to go see Shrimp Fest. If you are in a university town or have are connected to the high school and your high school does a homecoming, you want to make sure to indicate all of those kind of first day of school, any tax holidays your state might have. Those are really good things to then add onto the calendar. Now, this creates the baseline of your content inspiration. Finally, you want to add things that are specific to your business. So business birthday or anniversary, when you plan to launch new products, any conferences or networking events that you're going to, add them into your calendar. Now, you're not writing the content at this point, but I'll give you some tricks after the financial projections to help you get the actual content written. Finally, you've arrived, you've done it, you've made your life so much easier by creating all of those numbers in the course of actually business planning. The financial projections are the last section of your business plan, and this is what we've been building towards, right? Because everything in your business plan is helping you make money, save money, or costing you money. And this is where the numbers happen. This is where the magic happens. If you've included numbers along the way, this section will be easy. If not, go back and add those numbers, because numbers without the context of the rest of the business plan it's hollow, right? So you want to make sure that those numbers are justified by the rest of the business plan and that your business plan is distilled down into these numbers. So the projections that you should include here are a 12-month projection of your cash flow. Cash flow statement is one of the three primary financial statements that you'll often see in business. Your three primary financial statements are your profit and loss or income statement. That's one statement, sometimes, but one statement, two names, your balance sheet, and your cash flow statement. Oftentimes in business planning, you'll hear the term pro forma. Pro forma literally just means in a particular form. In a particular form. Now, these aren't like things that you can just create, right? There's templates online. You don't need to just come up with this from scratch. You get a template, you download that template. I think there's a good one on Score's website. So download a template and then fill that in with the numbers that you've added along the way. And you're going to use the cash flow projections, your cash flow as your financial statement. That's going to be the basis. And why do we do that? Because your profit and loss statement and your balance sheets are not as important here. And why is that? Because businesses live and die on cash, not accounts receivable, right? Like you need cash to pay your vendors. You need cash to do everything in business. So use the numbers from your company description, industry and market analysis, and your competitive plan to build your financial projections. Remember that everything in your plan, and say it with me, is either making you money, costing you, or saving you money. If you find in your kind of creation of your financial projections that you don't have a number that's required, go back to the section that's relevant to, right? An expense that's relevant to marketing should be under your competitive plan. An expense that's relevant to management or administration of the business should be under strategic alliances or the management section of your company description. So each of the financial numbers, like none of this should be new, first time seen here. This is a summary. It's just a summary done in numbers. So if you're watching this, hopefully you visited my booth at the Empowerment Summit. I do want to say that during the month of October, we have a Food Entrepreneurs AI Generated Business Plan competition, and food entrepreneurs could win $250 by creating an AI generated business plan and then submitting that with an application and tagging the Founders Playground in social media. So scan that code or visit my website, which is foundersplayground.co for more details and to enter the competition. I know it doesn't sound like a lot of money, but last session we only had 6 applicants, so you could be, it's a very low ask. The whole registration will only take you 45 minutes, so doesn't need to be anything fancy. I just want to see what you can come up with. Please get in touch, stay in touch. This is my digital business card. You'll scan that and it'll ask you to save to contacts. You may need to scroll to the bottom and create new contacts. So that's my digital business card. It's got all my contact information, LinkedIn and website and everything on there. And then here's some bonus material. And this I'm sure we're not going to get to in the Empowerment Summit. So this is real bonus material. So in creating your business plan, right? We used to have to do it all by scratch. And by scratch, I mean, writing it on paper, doing it, opening up a Word doc or Google Doc and, and creating it from scratch. Now with AI, don't do that. Don't do that. Now you know how to, right? You know the types of topics and questions to use when you use AI. So AI is going to help you start, rewrite, gather information, generate ideas. And so here are some big do's and don'ts. Do use AI to help you create a draft. Use AI to help you reword a paragraph. Use AI to help generate a marketing strategy or ideas, right? Generate, given this information and copy and paste your industry or market analysis into there, create 10 competitive strategies to help me run my business. Use AI to draft an industry and market research. Now, don't input bank statements, social security numbers, or private information. Don't do that. So don't input your financial statements. I know it's very tempting. You can use it to kind of analyze. That's proprietary information. Don't put in intellectual property that hasn't yet been registered, right? Including trade secrets. Never put trade secrets in there. So don't put any private information in. Don't submit it without reviewing it. Do not submit it. Don't believe everything that it tells you. Because AI, I don't know if you've heard this before, but AI hallucinates. It comes up with answers, even if they're not true. So don't finalize it before fact checking. Now, all of those disclaimers, yes. I want to tell you a simple prompt and give you the responses that it created for me. And I was using ChatGPT for this. So here's a sample prompt. I'm opening up a childcare business in rural Alabama. I'm working on a social media marketing calendar. Please create 30 social media captions for the month of December, including some holiday themed captions. Use hashtags. Each caption should be 500 characters long. And this is what it gave me. Obviously, it had all 30 of them, but look at this. It'll say something like, certainly here are 30 social media captions for your childcare business in rural Alabama for the month of December, including some holiday-themed captions along with relevant hashtags. 1, embrace the magic of December at your, and then childcare center, right? So if I'd put the name of the childcare center in there, it would input that automatically. Childcare Joy, rural Alabama. 2, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. Enjoy your winter wonderland at the Child Care Center. cozy up with a book by the fireplace. It's story time at our winter retreat, Storytime Magic, rural Alabama, and 27 more. So I want to thank you for your attention. Thank you for planning and being in business. I strongly believe that small business is the way that we change the world the fastest. So please let me know what questions you have in the comments, and happy business planning. Have a great day.